Okay, I'm going to tell you the truth. Something happened a few months ago. Nothing big, nothing significant, nothing overly traumatic, not even traumatic in any way. It was nothing. But you know what it did is it activated my unmet attachment needs, one of them. You know, we all have them. And I went into this whole cycle, whole mental state for a long time. The reason why I'm saying this to you is because it happens to all of us. I'm Deirdre Fay, and as many of you know who watch my videos, I'm really committed to untangling these knots. And they get in our way. They get in my way. They get in all of our ways. So my task is looking at it to see how can I untangle it and how can I help you untangle it. So this is what happened with me. I knew, because of you, I knew I had to look at why was I being so reactive? What was going on? And I wasn't even being reactive on the outside. It was just inside of me I was being reactive. So I spent a lot of time with it and really just kept sitting with it and sitting with it and sitting with it. Because I know what I say to people is if something is too big for you right now, if it's too big for me to hold in my body, then it's got to be something about the past. It's not necessarily about the event. So the event that happened was about one person. But because I was so reactive, I knew it wasn't about that person. Here's the theory behind it. It comes from yoga and the psychology of yoga, which says that there are these, when we're wounded in any way, it's lodged in our system. And the life force, prana, is always pushing through us, trying to clean us out, trying to return us back to our natural state of pureness and oneness and what we call true nature. So prana is moving through this, and when it hits up against one of our knots, it's called a samskara in yoga. When it hits up against a knot, it just sort of pushes against it. Remember, its goal, prana's goal, is to bring us back into connection with ourselves, into our pure nature. So if something's in the way, if it's a block, it's going to try to grind it down and clean it out. So that's the map I have in my mind. When I was getting so reactive, it's like, okay, something's happening. I'm getting reactive for a reason. Let me look at it. But boy, was it hard. And when our really younger attachment needs are activated, that's how hard it is. It does take really looking at it and working it through. So this energetic knot was getting reworked inside of me. And I watched myself, I was embarrassed to talk about it. I felt foolish. And because these unmet attachment needs are so primary, when they do get activated, we feel like there's something wrong with us, rather than realizing they're just unmet attachment needs. They're normal to have them, and if we don't have it, it's also normal to feel badly. What we tend to do is make ourselves wrong instead of realizing it's normal. This is what happens. So one day, I thought, okay, well, I'm going to deal with this. And I had the courage to talk to my friend, Anna, who is an executive coach. And I've known her for, since the 80s, so a long time. She's been a really solid friend for me. And because she's an executive coach, I went really humbly to her and I said, so can I ask you this question? Because I'm embarrassed. This is crazy. I don't know why I'm so reactive for so long. And she helped me look at it and sit with it and see what was coming up from within. So then that gave me the courage to have the conversation I needed to have with this person where I was getting reactive. And I realized it had nothing to do with this person. Now, I knew that in my head, right? I knew just because the map or the theory tells me that. But still, the experience was like, I couldn't parse out reality from this filter that I have on reality. And I kept bumping into, my body was responding to the filter as if it's real. Does this make sense? Really want you to see if you can get this, because the filter feels real. But the filter was coming from my unmet attachment needs, not on reality. So when I was able to talk to Anna and sort it out, and we both laughed about it, it was like, oh, wow, this is my filter. Let me act as if this is my filter rather than reality. And that really brought me back into myself, which then allowed me to have the conversation I needed to have, which then allowed it all to just, it was like seamless when I had the real conversation with a real person in real life. And then I sent Anna a text and we both laughed about it. And she was so kind with me. She said, oh, honey, this is what happens. This is what transformation is like. We all go through it. And, it's so great to have that, and that's where community is so important. But it also reminded me of the importance of practice. I have another friend, a long-term teacher and friend of mine named Dina Bandhu, Pat Sarley, who I was talking to recently, and he said to me, well, the benefit of practice is that we don't go into the ditch for as long or as often, or we don't go as far down the ditch. We're still going to go down the ditch at times, but we just don't have to be as caught by it for as long. Now, granted, this time I felt like I was caught for a while, but I learned so much about it. I learned so much about myself. I learned so much about taking self-responsibility, for being able to speak for myself, not even from my parts, but just speak from a place of empowerment or self-authority or selfness in the world, not even having to drag all the filtered stuff in, talk about the filter or any of it. And what a difference it made for me. What a difference. And it was, I feel myself really deeply learned by that. I feel like I learned something really important, but I feel like I am reinvigorated to keep sharing this with you and offering you ways that we can get through it. So remember, when we get reactive, when any of us get reactive, if it's too big for this moment or it lasts for too long, you can bet that it's about the past. So you have to be able to link it back. What's happening now? What's happening then? And realize whatever the reactivity is about your filter, not about reality. So, okay, got that? If you're being reactive, it's about you. You have to look at what's going on in you. It's some filter you have on reality more than it's about out there. Once you get what your filter is, you can then know how to be in relationship with the world in a way that's going to be more empowering for you and for your world, actually. Now, of course, not everything is true all the time, but for the most part, this is what's going to be true. So once you do that, then you can interact with the outside world. But the first part is to do your own work. And often you're going to have to do it in community or with a therapist or a coach or a good friend, somebody who understands the map and helps you clean your filter more than trying to get you to change the external world. So, hope this is helpful. It's Deirdre Fay. Check out my website, dfay.com. If you're interested, join the Safely Embodied Learning community, which is where we practice these things over and over again. Because as Dina Bandhu said, if we're practicing and we're practicing and we're practicing, it's just life is easier. We're just not going to go down the ditch as far for as long as often. And I certainly want that for you.